Oakridge, a small town nestled between the mountains, was the picture of serenity. A place where neighbors knew each other by name, and everyone looked out for one another. No one could have predicted what would happen next. But nature had other plans. One fateful evening, the sky darkened, and a storm unlike any before it descended upon the town. The floodwaters rose quickly, swallowing streets, homes, and businesses. Chaos was everywhere. In a matter of hours, Oakridge was unrecognizable. Streets became rivers, homes disappeared beneath the water. The community that had once been so peaceful was now in turmoil. Fear and uncertainty took over, but amidst it all, a flicker of hope began to emerge. Sarah, a mother of two, stood in her kitchen, watching as the water crept closer to her home. She couldn't just sit and wait for help. She called her neighbors, friends, even strangers. And what she heard next would change everything. They were ready. They were coming. Neighbors who had never spoken to each other before were now working side by side. One by one, boats arrived to rescue the stranded. Firefighters waded through waist-high water, lifting elderly residents into their arms. People shared whatever they could: food, blankets, and water. As the floodwaters continued to rise, the town's heart began to beat with a new rhythm: unity. Volunteers poured in from nearby towns and emergency shelters sprang up overnight. In the face of devastation, Oakridge became a symbol of resilience. Among the volunteers were strangers, people who had driven in from neighboring towns, not knowing anyone in Oakridge. One volunteer, Mark, a middle-aged truck driver, carried a child to safety, his clothes drenched. His hands trembled, but his resolve was unwavering. At the shelter, Sarah met others who had lost everything. She helped organize the chaos, ensuring everyone had a place to sleep and something to eat. And though the damage was overwhelming, Sarah noticed something beautiful: the kindness of strangers, the strength of neighbors, and the sense of family that had replaced fear. Days turned into weeks, and the work was far from over. But Oakridge began to rebuild. Homes were restored brick by brick. Families began to return to the streets. It wasn't just physical recovery, it was emotional too. Oakridge wasn't just a town, it was a community, stronger than ever. Sarah realized something in those quiet moments at the end of the day. It wasn't the storm that defined Oakridge, it was how they responded. The town had been broken, but together, they were unshakable. The storm had tested them, but it could never defeat them. Today, Oakridge stands tall, not just because of its buildings, but because of its people. The town learned that the strongest force in the world isn't nature, it's the unity of a community. And from that unity, Oakridge will never falter again. When we stand together, there is nothing we cannot overcome. In times of crisis, we rise. And in our unity, we find our true strength. ThriveX, where growth begins. Don't miss out. Hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon to stay inspired. Together, we'll unlock your full potential.